All right, Casey, we are live again. Another post-game show. This one's a day late, and that's okay. We'll get to that. It's a day late. All right, we got some good sleep. Got up
Apologies
early.
to the fan.
Oh man, there's some upset people this morning who didn't
There was
have a
one
show.
upset person.
Okay, one person upset because they didn't have the show ready to go for their Cheerios this morning. So shout out to you, sir. Or ma'am, I don't know. The
Yeah.
internet's anonymous. But again, apologies, but we're here now. A&M 34, New Mexico 0.
Zero.
0 points. Aggies do win, and what do we do when the Aggies win, Casey?
Victory Scotch.
Victory scotch.
Victory
We've been
Scotch. It's a
drinking.
day late.
I've been going through a lot of scotch due to Aggie football,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what? That's a good thing.
That's
No
fine.
worries.
Yeah.
But there was some method to the madness because we had a lot of college football to watch yesterday, and A&M did win 34 to nothing. Okay, but this was one of those games you really needed to go back and watch again to really absorb how well did we play, how well did we not play, and so you know what?
You
I'm
know
glad
what?
we did. I'm glad we did.
Okay then.
What?
So, because to be honest, okay, I haven't rewatched the game. You have. So let me kind of tell you how it felt to me. Now, full disclosure, we had a kids' soccer game that morning, so we started the game late, which meant we didn't really catch up on the DVR until the game was pretty much over, which always kind of skews your feeling for the game a little bit. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it does because we're watching it fast. We're trying to catch up.
Yeah.
We don't have a good feel for the flow. Sometimes that's the way it works out. So it was really important, at least for me, to go back and watch a lot of the first and second half and watch these plays over and over and over again to try to kind of figure out what's happening out there. So,
All right.
you
So
said
you got to
you
do
got it in
that.
real time. Yep. What was your
Yeah.
impression?
My impression was that I thought Zach looked light years better than he did against Colorado. He looked way more relaxed, calm, in and out of the pocket, working the offense okay, um, regardless of how you felt about his overall performance, I guess. Like all that just horrendous jitteriness we saw in Colorado,
Right.
completely gone. So I felt really good about that. Um, Obviously, we scored a lot of points. We had some big plays. We saw Demond Demas. Um, we scored early anyway. But I will say the one thing that it felt like to me the entire day watching the game is that I never felt like the offense was executing at a high level. I felt like we were making big plays because we had some athletes that were so much better than them. Outside of maybe there was a drive I remember in the third quarter, I think, where we pretty much ran it down inside the 10, ran it down their throats. Spiller broke off a few big
Right.
runs. A chain had a nice chunk play. And then Musim Mohammed makes that great catch in the corner of the end zone, which I want to come back to the catch, but the throw as well. But overall, it just felt very disjointed and shaky and not what I really wanted to see heading into next week and coming out of that performance against Colorado. The
Yeah.
offensive line play is what really stuck out to me as a lot of mistakes that kept the team from really getting in a flow and just dominating on offense.
Yeah, and it was very interesting to listen to the head football coach after this one because he had a lot of very hot sports opinions about his football team in the post game presser, and I would highly recommend anybody out there go listen to what Jimbo had to say
Maybe as
because
candid as
he's
he's been since he's been here.
yeah, and I think that's because he knows how good of a football team this could be,
Hmm.
and he took to the media to send a couple messages to some folks and I on the team, and we're gonna get to that because when I went back and watched, like you said, Calzada night and day, very comfortable, looked like he was making really good decisions for the most part. Um, he had a bad ball here or there, a bad decision, but they weren't the kinds of decisions, or I should say, lack of decisions that he was making in Colorado because he was going through some progressions. He had a really bad interception in the second half. And, that was trying to make a play off of a busted pass protection. And we've seen him make this throw a few times now, rolling to his left. And as he's going out of bounds, try to force one down the sideline.
Right.
And that's the second time he's thrown that pick in 3 games, in three
Yeah.
appearances. He's got to stop that. And then the other really bad decision was a 3rd and 4, getting close to scoring some points down near the red zone, and force the ball over the middle, deep near the goal line. When he had a guy coming open right in front of him for a first down, 5 yards down the field, and Jimbo really
Oh,
ate him up,
that's
really
right.
ate
Is
him
that
up
the
on the
one that
sideline.
he sailed it over Weidemeyer?
Yes,
And that's where
yes,
you saw Jimbo grab him on the side and say, "Why'd you do that?" You know,
yeah.
it's
It
get
was
the
third and
first down,
four.
basically.
Third and
Yeah.
four was what came off of his lips. So don't. Why are you throwing that? But all in all, I thought he played really well. It's interesting. You look at his line; it was 16 to 33, and it felt in the game like he completed a higher percentage of passes than that. To be honest.
Absolutely.
So I think there was if you go back and look at how the game progressed, we scored 24 points in the first half, uh, 14 in the first quarter, another 10 in the second, 10 more points in the third, and then we don't score again in the fourth quarter, but we really rotated a lot of guys into the game
Yes.
in
We
that
started
fourth quarter.
rotating early
Yes.
for
Uh,
by Jimbo standards, very early.
Extreme. I mean, there were guys getting play in the second quarter that we weren't expecting to see on both sides of the football. Um, but let's go back to what you're talking about earlier, the offensive line. Just like against Colorado, there were it seemed like on every play there was 3, sometimes 4 guys doing the right thing, being physical, getting on their blocks, but way too many times there was one guy that wasn't. And it wasn't always the offensive line. Okay.
No.
um, Blake Trainer had a rough debut,
Yeah.
but the other guys that are supposed to support the run game, also had a really bad day. One guy in particular we talked about, like, what did you see out of Jalen Wittermeyer in this football game? I know what I saw, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, it was not a whole lot. And to be fair, it's not just this game. We've been noticing it the entire season so far that he doesn't seem to quite have his head right. He's not finishing blocks. He's not finishing routes sometimes. He's not finishing catches. In general, we're not getting the elevated play we expected to get from him with, another year under his belt, right? Like this is your season to get paid because
Yeah,
he's got all the tools to get paid big time and it's not off to a good start.
yeah, and I mean, this is a guy who has, okay, tight ends don't typically go in the first round, right? But
Mhm,
high second, early third is where you start to get really good value out of your tight end picks.
mhm.
Right now, it's a guy that if I'm turning on the tape, he's falling, and that's
Mhm.
concerning because one of the knocks against him, and I didn't see it so much last year, but I see it really early on this year, is the physicality in the blocking game. It's like he's just content to man up and body somebody, not dump truck them.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, man. He's got to be confident in his blocks and he's got to be physical. And, Max Wright coming in playing the H back, sometimes two tight end set. He's missing dudes completely.
Yeah.
It's not that
We're
he
not
doesn't want
seeing
to be physical.
yeah.
He's just missing. We're not
To
picking
the
up
point
anybody.
Yeah, to the point where I think people have a right to be frustrated with a guy like a Baylor Cup not getting his shot when
Yeah.
the idea is like, okay, I think a lot of people were early on content to say, well, Weidemeyer, he's the guy, you know, he's obviously he's the number one tight end, and the second tight end has got to be more of a blocking specialist, and so that's why Max Wright is the guy ahead of Baylor Cup, but I'm not seeing that value out of Max Wright.
Yeah, I'm
So
not either.
why isn't somebody else that's a bigger receiving threat getting there more often? And obviously we're not in practice. Maybe he's missing assignments too, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, and Baylor Cup did play. He was one of those guys we talked about earlier that started coming in. a little later in the game than others, but he did get some snaps and didn't get targeted. That's a shame. Would like to see him get going too. But again, I not just the tight ends. I don't want to just pick on the tight ends. There was
Mhm.
several runs that were blocked up well, and then Ananias missed a block on the edge, and Spiller gets blown up for a no gain. Right? And so it just goes back to what we said earlier. It's a group effort right now in the run game, and coming out in the second half, Jimbo challenged them to run the football. And like you said, they had that drive where it was run, 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 run. Now they ended up scoring on an incredible play
Mhm.
uh, with Moose Muhammad, but yeah, just the running game struggled, and that is the biggest concern coming out of this game. Is that all has to get right, and it has to get right in a hurry. Okay?
In a few days. And I think you've got right to be concerned that in the next few days, we're going to see more position changes. All right. Because Green moved to guard for this game because Layden Robinson was out. And that's why Trainer was
Yep,
in at right
yep,
tackle. Didn't seem to perform well. And then you mentioned some other guys getting their chance. I'm assuming you're talking about Fothery coming in and playing left tackle instead of the grad transfer Jameer Johnson. And I thought Fothery looked great. We've really been hearing since fall camp that, hey, this Fothery guy is tearing it up and might just win the job before the season's over. And you know, it seemed like he got a shot. I wouldn't be surprised if our best five is Fothery, Aggie, Foster, uh, Layden, and Green in that order from left to right. Uh, but if that's what you're going to roll out there this week, you're shuffling positions again. And we've
yeah,
been wanting to see the offensive line gel by now, and it's not happening.
right. Yeah, and that's going to be a discussion here in a minute when we talk about college football overall.
Ooh,
But let's shift gears for a minute because, and while I do that, make sure that the folks out on the Twitter who follow at Meltdown
oh,
Ags have the link for the
done that.
show. Grab it, tweet
Apologies.
it. Yeah, we want to make sure folks know that we're out there, especially those who are eating breakfast at 8 o'clock at night and who need that in their life. But we did have some really big bright spots in the game, and I want to talk about that while you're taking care of business. We had a bunch of young receivers get into this football game and catch the ball for the first time, score some touchdowns for the first time, and the fan base has grown very restless waiting for that because we've heard about these guys and we've seen some flashes in spring games and practice, and it started off very quickly when Zach Calzada dropped back to pass and hits a wide open Demond Demas for a 70-yard touchdown. An absolutely beautiful throw. Look, Demond was wide open. Okay, it was a busted coverage from what I can tell. I don't see anybody within 20 yards of the kid when the ball goes in the air.
That's
But
not his fault.
that's not his fault. You know what? I've seen guys drop that ball before, so he
I've
caught
seen
it.
guys biff that pass too.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I
absolutely
mean,
overthrow it.
yeah, yeah.
So hey, Calzada recognized it immediately, planted his feet, actually took something off of the pass.
Dude, that
Right?
was a wrist flick
It
for
was a
him
wrist flick that went 54 yards in the air.
in the air.
Okay, and he dropped it in there perfect. Um, I hope we see a lot more of that. It was the perfect first catch for Demas,
Yeah.
right? I hope it sets the tone. He came back and made a fantastic cut and catch later in the game.
Oh,
He made some mistakes, but that play was beautiful
it
because
was.
you can't defend what he did to
No.
that DB.
Or what
And
Calzada did, because if you watch from behind the quarterback, that's a beautiful view too. You get a great shot of the footwork
right,
from Demas to create tons of separation with his route running, but that ball was out before Demas finished his break. I mean, that was some NFL
yes,
timing and route running and everything. So that is indefensible when those two are doing it that way.
yeah, and I want to give Zach some credit on that throw too, because if you watch it live, he got lit up. There was a guy coming right in his
Hmm.
face from the left side, and he took a pretty good shot on that. So Demas got in there, got two catches, I think 112 yards. And then we saw two more receivers get in on the action that we hadn't seen before: Moose Muhammad
Hmm.
and Devin Price.
Yeah. And Devin
So
Price. And let me tell you, if you go back and watch the spring game, I rewatched the spring game a few weeks ago, and I remember thinking, man, I like Haynes better. I like what he brings to the table. But Zach's receivers are giving him way more help today than
yeah,
Haynes's were, and that was Devin Price catching everything nearby, catching stuff behind him.
in
Moose was
traffic,
playing
taking
for, yeah, in
shots.
traffic. Like that's what we need. We need a guy that can do that. We
Yeah,
haven't been seeing a lot of that.
and so look, he got his feet wet, but Moose is the one who stole the show, in my
Hmm.
opinion, throughout the day. He made some great catches, made one on the sideline, made some
Hmm.
in the middle of the field, and then this beautiful uh, catch for a touchdown at the end of the drive where we ran.
Yep.
Okay, um, Zach made a spectacular throw again with pressure.
Spectacular throw.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he
pressure in
put
his
it,
face.
yeah, put it in the
And
back
not a
corner of
lot of
the end zone.
separation even from Moose. Like that route took a little while to develop. It's not like he got way behind him.
Right.
Uh, that was a brilliant throw, and I want to point that out too because, and I've mentioned this on Twitter, and I'm not sure that many people realize it. Remember that the hashes in college football are much wider than they are in the NFL. So when you're all the way on one hash, the wide side of the field is a long way. So we were what inside the 15 there, I think. But that
Yeah.
throw, that was like a 40-yard throw in the air. And I don't think Haynes King has the arm strength to throw the ball the way Zach threw it. A quarterback with lesser
Correct.
arm strength he's gonna have to put a little more air under that ball, and that means it's either gonna sail out of bounds or it's gonna become more of a 50-50 ball where Moose has to turn and go up over the defender who's face guarding him a little bit, and maybe Moose comes down with it, but there's not a lot of quarterbacks that can throw that ball the way Zach did on that play.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch the point at which he throws it, again, ESPN killing me with being too zoomed in on a play, but you can just
Yeah.
see Muhammad break across the defender. He's
Hmm.
still, he has like a step on him when Zach throws that ball, and that's the very definition of kind of throwing a guy open.
Uh-huh.
When he put it in the perfect place where his guy could go get it and made a spectacular catch. There's no doubt, but the ball placement is where that throw's got to be. It's got to be there. And so that was great. It was great to see seven in the game. Returned some kicks, at least fielded some kicks
Yeah.
for most of the third and fourth quarter. Nias was out of the game. So again, look, I mean, new guys, new blood in a part of the offense that needed it, and that was really exciting to see because you're not going to go win football games you want to win without those guys getting involved at some point this season. So really good progress there from the quarterback and the receivers. We need the rest of this thing to get going.
We do. And hey, you mentioned the drive where you could tell Jimbo really challenged the guys and was like, we're gonna run. You guys have got to be able to run. It was a little bit reminiscent of the drive against Florida last year where we did virtually the
Hmm.
same thing, ran it down their throats, and you could tell that really for the rest of the season, we had developed an identity from that point on, running the football. I know New Mexico is not Florida, but I hope that there's some carryover there. Because really, after that, we started subbing in a lot more on the offensive line.
We did.
And so, I don't really blame them for not looking that cohesive after that.
No, I agree with you. You'd like to see somebody getting a field goal out of something, just generating a little bit more than what we saw. But whatever. Uh, if the offensive line progresses, gels, we'll be where we need to be. Let's flip the script though. Let's get to the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
because if you want to hang your hat on something and Aggie fans want something to be really excited about and hopeful about, then it's this defense because they were awesome. They were incredible, and they were incredible pretty much all day.
Pretty much all day. Dominant inside, like we saw again in the second half against Colorado, except even better because one, competition not quite as good, and we got McKinley Jackson back, who was absolutely the McKinley Jackson we were used to seeing at the end of last year, and then some maybe. I think a lot of people have been concerned that the running defense is good, but like has given up chunk plays. We saw a little bit of that this weekend, but not that much. And I think McKinley Jackson has a lot to do with that. He's a load in the middle. He occupies guys, and I think that's going to help keep our linebackers a little cleaner, to help clean up some of those plays that might turn into a chunk play. Maybe stop them for just three or four or whatever.
Yeah, look, there were some chunk plays. If you go back and watch them, it was really interesting. There were several of them where the interior defensive linemen uh, didn't really try to push upfield. They actually played off a little bit, and they tried to occupy a spot, and they weren't collapsing that line. And when they did that, there was a couple opportunities where guys were able to just kind of get right through and right by. And
Yeah,
I thought that was odd. You actually had a lot of guys rotating in and out too. Peavy was in
hmm
and out. Kinley was in and out. Shamar Turner. There was a lot of activity. It was like everybody wanted to eat, and so
yeah,
they just rotated a bunch of dudes in at the buffet. And so I think some guys kind of got caught out of position a little bit. Um, sometimes when you see those kinds of plays, you get concerned about your linebackers. I was not concerned about our linebackers. I thought they played pretty well, made a lot of tackles.
hmm
If they were getting near a guy, that guy was going down. I thought Hansford was awesome. I thought, we saw something from Cooper that Jimbo talks about all the time. He talks about what a freak athlete that guy is.
yeah.
Dude, he can tackle you in space.
He can. There was one play where we kind of said, "Oh," and then because it looked like he was going to get stuck inside, and then at the last second somehow created that leverage on his blocker, and then
Yeah,
and the freak athleticness to get outside and make a tackle on the edge, after looking like he was going to get sucked inside. Like I
yeah,
can run.
yeah. And so I thought they were great. Let's talk about the back half of the defense because they are balling out. They have not allowed a 100-yard passer so far this season. And they were up to the task again this weekend. They are flying to the football in run support. They are
hmm
covering dudes. They are hitting dudes. They're making plays. When you're flying
Oh
around
yeah,
like that, you're making plays. They're just we got Miles Jones back,
yeah,
which is big.
yeah.
That forces some guys to take chances at Jalen, and
Yeah.
Jalen,
Good luck.
you know, good luck, man. I
Didn't
mean, there was
notice
a
him on
couple.
screen again this weekend.
No, well, the only time we did was when he still nearly had another interception, breaking on the ball. I mean, the guy's just all over the
Yeah,
ball when it's going outside, and that's good to see. We saw some new guys, right? So we got Miles back.
yeah,
We saw Deuce Harmon playing a
yeah.
lot, 11,
hmm
and I absolutely loved seeing Deuce Harmon on the field with Antonio Johnson,
mm
basically like in a dime package. Because both safeties and
Yeah,
both corners are still in there, and they're matching up on these third downs. And man, it was game over with
yeah,
those two dudes. There is no mismatch with an Antonio Johnson, and Harmon's bigger than I thought. He's a big dude.
yeah. They're both bigger than. Well, actually, that's funny. No, Antonio Johnson is smaller than I thought because in some of these like practice clips that have leaked out, I don't know. Maybe it's his practice gear made him look like a. He had a weird neck roll or something, and he looked like a linebacker, and he got burned bad by Demas in a couple of practice clips. Which, look, that's why you got a guy like Demas. There's no
Haven't we all?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was almost like, is this guy, is he more of like a hybrid linebacker? Is he a little too big to be playing nickel corner or something? And no, that guy is flying around. So hitting people. You mentioned like the tackling on the edge and everything, and that's through the first three games been one of the things I've been the most excited about, especially from Antonio Johnson. Is just, man, you trying to do a swing pass on this defense, and they are lighting guys up.
Yeah, because there's three guys there. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, you get Cooper flying out there, or Hansford. Then you've got Antonio Johnson flying up the field. I loved the way Leon O'Neal played this week. You know, he's flying up on run support and cutting guys down when it looks like there's a seam there, and all of a sudden, no, it's only a 2 or 3 yard game when
yeah,
it could be 6 or 7. Uh, but still taking care of his responsibilities on the back end. At least we hope so.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No, Leon's having a great year. He's definitely gonna. I think he's making himself some nice NFL money to add to that shell money. Uh,
that's
he's
right,
having a
folks.
great. That's right. I felt
Shell
so bad.
gasoline.
No, I'm so mad because I had just filled up the wife's car with gas, and I got home and I pulled open my phone and looked at Twitter, and Leon is running his ad for Shell, and I was so mad because I went to some other place. I don't know if you know this, but like modern cars, they got all this anti-siphon technology in it, so like you can't siphon the gas out. You gotta like poke a hole in the gas tank. So now I need a new gas tank for the wife's car, which has been a real bummer this week. But anyway, so
That was a terrible joke.
no, it was the greatest joke in the world. Anyway, but so yeah, only Shell for me from now on.
yeah,
Look, in all seriousness, Leon is legitimately a great pitch man. Like his little video commercial, I was like, man, Leon, just skip the
dude's a
NFL and make
natural.
millions doing infomercials.
Yeah, he should get his own podcast.
Yeah,
Unless you want to come on with us, Leon, you can come on with us
absolutely.
anytime you want. So
I don't think we
we'll
can
we'll post a
afford to
link
have
to the.
Leon come on.
That's probably true, but
Yeah,
it would help us out. That's
it
for
would help
sure.
us out a lot. Anytime, Leon.
So
No,
I
but
don't.
you're to your point. You're right. Leon has been playing awesome. I loved. You remember we had the pick six against Kent State on that. Faking them out on the RPO stuff, and he didn't pick the ball off, but he created the pick this week, right?
He
Because he
did.
did the same
Yeah,
thing.
did the
He
same
came
thing.
down like he was crashing on the run. Quarterback threw the ball thinking there's no way anybody is there, and all of a sudden Leon is there to like tip the ball, and somebody else picked it off, right?
Yes.
But Leon jumped the passing lane, and guys all over the place. So F it, all the sips out there that have been ragging on Leon for 3 years. Dude's balling
Shout out to Leon O'Neal, man.
now.
Aggie for life. Sticking it out. So yeah, look, I don't know if there's really that much more to say about this game. It's time to start looking ahead to Arkansas. We're gonna have a dogfight on our hands next weekend, Arlington, and
Yeah,
at least I think we are. This feels like one of those games. I didn't see enough from the offense to think that this is anything but a defensive struggle. Points at a premium. Dudes are going to be hitting. Somebody's probably going to bust a punt return, block a field goal. And that ends up being the difference in the game in like a 24-17, 24-21 type game. But these games in Arlington very often have not gone the way anybody expected them to. Except we've always won them. We're 9-0, trying to get to double digits this weekend. So I'm hoping to be out there. I think you're hoping to be out there. It's in our backyard. To be honest, if I was picking today, I actually would probably pick against my team. And but I have 5.5 days to talk myself into a double digit win.
yeah. Honestly, I think I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm feeling just Well, because here's the thing: we've been saying all off season, right? What's going to happen with the offensive line? We think we're adding more talent, but much less experience. But they've got 5 games to gel, right? They got 5 games to gel. We've been saying that for months and months and months now, and it's not 5 games. It's 3 games because what we're coming up against this week is, you know, like I've been saying for a while, a big, strong team that's playing discipline, and that's enough in this league to get you.
Yes. Yep.
And
If you're not on top of your game, that's for dang sure.
right. So
And we're
I mean
not.
that was my big takeaway from New Mexico was I'm like, okay, I would rather have Haynes King, but we're fine at quarterback. Like I'm not worried about quarterback. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the secondary. I'm even that worried about the wide receiver core that much. I'm very much worried about the offense.
Right.
But to
Absolutely.
your point, if this is a big defensive struggle, what have we seen over the last several months from this team? It's a team built to win those types of games. So if you
Yes.
want to talk yourself out of picking Arkansas, that might be the reason.
Yeah. And look, that's fair. I mean, this is a Jimbo Fisher type game,
Right.
right? And these are the ones that he knows how to win. We did it a lot last year.
Hmm.
And, you know, so I think everybody's just got to be mentally prepared that this is going to be a grinder,
Hmm.
right? It's going to be two teams just battling it out, knocking each other on their butts for 4 quarters, and somebody's going to make 4 or 5 plays to the other team's 2 or 3 plays, and that'll be
Yeah.
the difference. That's what it feels like.
Well,
So whatever, we'll find out quick.
we will find out. But I'll also say this: you want to take heart in this team if it's a defensive struggle. That's fine. That's as good as reason as any to be optimistic. However, because I think we're a little bit ready to move on from Arkansas, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you're looking for another reason to take heart, I think it's this. And this segues into the rest of the show, I think. Do we have any idea who is good in college football right now? Any
I don't.
idea at all? I've got no idea. Like everyone is all over Arkansas right now, and I kind of get it because of what they did to Texas, 350 yards. Is Texas any good? I mean, seriously, I've got no idea who's good right now. I don't even know if Alabama's good. Sort of.
Yeah, look, I think this
I mean,
weekend opened it up, right? Because you look around the league, you look around college football. Um, we went into this weekend, everybody just saying, "Well, it's Alabama and everybody else." Everybody else is trying to figure out who's good or not. Well, now we're going, "Hey, Alabama, new offensive line, new
mhm,
quarterback, faced some real resistance this weekend on the road." And even though they jumped out early, which is what they tend to do, they couldn't sustain it. They got worn down. Florida was putting tremendous pressure on both lines. They ran the ball on Alabama, ran it down their throats, got back into the game running the ball. They were able to disrupt Bryce Young and that juggernaut and force enough defensive stops to allow that team to get back in the game while running the football. Look, they came up short in the end, but everybody should come out of that game going, oh well, all off season, all you heard, like, and look, it's a reality. Is we have a brand new offensive line, and we're breaking in a new quarterback, and it seemed like A&M was a team that was talked about the most in that regard.
the
But
only
Ohio
one getting
State,
penalized for that. Right.
the only one. But Ohio State, Clemson, Bama, same thing, same situations. Ohio State has struggled, and they lost, and they looked mediocre in their other games, to be honest. Bama, once they go up against somebody
With a
decent
pulse.
with a pulse, same thing, right? So A&M is, in my opinion, looking around the league, the whole landscape. They, here, I should put it this way: whoever figures this out, whichever team's offensive line and running game does gel, is going to emerge as the front runner in college
Hmm.
football. And I haven't seen anybody that's, said, well, that's us. They haven't figured it out. So, we tend to only look at our warts, but there's plenty of them out there, and
Yeah.
the number 4 team in the country in the polls this morning, Iowa. Please,
Huh.
you
Well,
know,
and look,
I,
I think if you're looking around going, why are only our awards being talked about in the media? You might have a case for that. You might be right, but in general, you know, I said today, like, I know that what else are we going to talk about, right? This is college football and the rankings. That's just what we're conditioned to talk about. But I genuinely, like, I don't care right now. I really couldn't care
yeah,
any less because it just doesn't matter. Like, it's all out there for us. We do have legitimate problems. So even though we might be being treated unfairly for them, they are real problems. I saw one of our followers, tweet today that, look, if we can't figure out this O line situation, we could lose to everybody on the schedule. But if we do figure out the O line situation, we're beating everybody on the schedule. So I don't know. Whatever. Let's play the games. I don't know what's going
yeah. No, look, I think that's a great way to look at it. Uh, we all sit around for 8 months waiting for college football to start, and we miss it. We're already 3 games in our rearview mirror,
on.
and we really should just enjoy the hell out of whatever happens the rest of the year. Every weekend's like opening up another present. It's Christmas morning, and you get to have a college football game, particularly in front of these live crowds. Um, the A&M program is just on such a great trajectory. You just think about the future of where things are headed, and we may get frustrated because this line hasn't brought it together in 3 weeks with 4 new starters. But we may be thinking so differently in November, even with a loss or two on our record. We may be looking at this thing in November, going, "Oh my God, it's really starting to become a machine." And with young quarterbacks and young receivers and young linemen. And look, yeah, we had a lot of experience on defense, but there's a lot of youth on that defense too. So don't anybody get too nervous. Oh, we're going to waste this effort. Nah,
No.
look, man, you look
That's
at
what
where
these guys
recruiting's
do.
going. Yeah,
That's what we hired them
exactly.
for.
That's right. So let's
Yeah.
not
And
all let's not all get down in the dumps.
no. And because and I say that sincerely, that's why we hired him. That's why,
Hmm.
a guy like Jimbo is here to build. I think Lucci has said a couple of weeks or this whole week that like maybe A&M needs to be Georgia this year, where you've got a great
Yeah,
defense and the offense is okay. I think that's what Jimbo's trying to do. He's saying, look,
yeah,
he's building a team that can win without having an amazing offense. So that in those years where you do get that guy like a Jameis Winston, or maybe what we hoped Haynes King could be, and the offense all comes together, then you mow people down. And in the
absolutely.
meantime, you're in every game, you're winning, 10 to 11 games a year, and you're in the conversation. And that might be frustrating, but it's also so much better than anything we've seen around here for a
Oh
long, long
God.
time.
Hell yeah, it is. I mean, let's not forget A&M's won 11 football games in a row.
Hmm.
11. So I'm right there with you. Last week we only needed 8 points to win the game.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
this week we needed a safety
yeah.
to win the football game.
And that
So
is crazy in college football, no matter
it
who you're
is.
playing.
Doesn't matter who you're playing, and that's a great place to be. And we may have to ride that. We may have to ride that for a couple of weeks until everything else, like you said, kind of gets rolling. And I do think it will. Um, so that's where we are. That's where we are today. Sports and in Arkansas coming up soon. I don't know, man. What else you got? We're just gonna end it right here.
No, I think so. I think we said all we need to say. As Screw FSU and Arizona. Um, we might
Boy,
have to
there's some
update our coaching salary spreadsheet soon because Florida State could very well start the season 1-5, and
catastrophic, man.
I
And
would laugh
you and I,
so hard
we
if
talked
that.
about it earlier. At what point can they not afford to fire another coach? And I don't know. They're in a rough spot. Almost feel bad for them at this point. Um,
No,
in
not
Arizona,
me, not
jeez,
even a little bit.
not even a little bit. He says,
No,
well, they're not going to pull a USC. I just don't think they can do it. All right, that
no.
is the meltdown show, the post game show for A&M's 34 to nothing win over New Mexico, and we'll be back at it next week, hopefully Saturday. There's even some talk about trying to do the post game show from our seats in the stadium. I don't know, probably breaking
I
some
don't
kind of
know.
rules. I don't want to go
Probably.
to jail.
Well, I don't care about that. I'm
But
more worried about tech concerns, but anyway, we'll make it work. We'll be back
all right,
with
everybody have a
hopefully some
great
victory
week.
scotch.
Beat the hell out of Arkansas.
Beat the hell out of Arkansas.